Hi, welcome to MeetRx Success Stories. I'm Brooke, a coach here at MeetRx, and today I'm interviewing another coach, Jacie, who's going to share with us her carnivore journey. Hi there, Jacie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Brooke?
Pretty good. So thank you again for coming on and sharing with us what's happening for you and how it's going with carnivore diet.
Absolutely. I'm always so happy to be able to share my story.
Great. Well, what brought you to the carnivore diet? What was going on for you?
I had a lot of issues that I felt I shouldn't be having at the age I was when I first started carnivore. I was diagnosed with prediabetes. I had cystic acne ever since I was a teenager that I never seemed to be able to get rid of. I had a lot of joint pain. I have scoliosis, and so I just have a lot of inflammation in my joints from the hips down. And then I also was pretty crippled by my mental illness. I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 15. So I struggled with all of those things for a very long time. Eventually, I found keto, and through that, I found the carnivore community. So I started carnivore in January of 2020. I was only going to do it for 30 days, and I was using it as a keto reset. I thought it would be an easier keto diet, and turns out I was very wrong. I have experienced benefits on carnivore that I never got on a keto diet. I no longer have clinical prediabetes. My cystic acne has completely cleared up. My joint pain, it's not only reduced, it's eliminated. So I was dealing with chronic joint pain my entire adult life, and now I just don't experience that day to day. And the biggest benefit for me personally, and what kept me going past that 30 days, was over time, my anxiety, it just felt like it was shrinking. It was such an interesting sensation to go from having OCD so severe that I had trouble leaving my home to just not experiencing that anxiety day to day and having this overwhelming sense of peace and calm. And once I started experiencing that, I was like, oh my goodness, this diet is amazing. Like everyone should try this or at least know about it. And so that's how I found carnivore, and that's the benefit that it's given to me.
That sounds fantastic. You know, when you were eating keto, what was that diet like, since it's such a range?
It really is. I ate more whole foods based. I've never been one to kind of eat replacements or sugar substitutes. I'm just not much of a sweet tooth. So I was eating a lot of salads, a lot of avocado, and then to get the fat intake I needed, I was eating a lot of seed oils.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yep.
So you maybe keto even made things worse, or did you find some kind of benefit with keto from
I
the previous diet?
Yeah, so coming from a standard American diet, and before that, I was actually vegetarian. So I think keto helped me in the sense that I was finally getting dietary fat, which previously I was under the like low fat impression that the media gives you. And then just eating enough protein was something I've always undereaten my entire life, and especially when I was a vegetarian. So I think that that gave me a lot of benefit that I wouldn't have had otherwise. I did experience reduced brain fog, better energy, and it reduced my joint pain. But in terms of my clinical prediabetes, my cystic acne, and my mental illness, along with every other benefit I've gotten from carnivore, I just didn't experience the same level of healing that I have with carnivore.
How long were you practicing the keto diet before you
I
sort of
was
found carnivore?
Yes, I did keto from 2017 through the end of 2019. I found it
Uh-huh.
very difficult to stick to though.
Uh-huh. Okay, for a couple of years then.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. And then when you started to implement the carnivore diet, how did you do that?
I I kind of jumped in without doing a ton of research or seeking a ton of help. And I wish I had kind of changed that. If I could go back and start again, I totally would. But when I started carnivore, I just ate intuitively within the animal food spectrum. So whatever I was craving, I would eat that. I wasn't tracking calories or macros or anything. If I was hungry, if I wanted beef, I would eat beef. If I wanted salmon, I would eat salmon. And I found a lot of healing through approaching the diet that way. I did incorporate more spices and condiments in the beginning of my diet. But over time, I've just found that I feel so much better with sticking to more simple, just beef and salt. And that's how I feel my best.
Well, actually, it sounds like you implemented it pretty well. I mean, you ate when you were hungry. You included all the different animal food sources to sort of, before you sort of, focused on one, and probably even having the spices. It still makes it kind of like, sort of slowly come into focus. So
Right.
it sounds like you did a great job of implementing it, actually.
Yes, the only thing I think is I could have experienced more benefits sooner if I had kind of had more information than I pursued. But I have no regrets. Obviously, I'm still sticking to the carnivore way of eating.
It's great when you could just eat it very simply with just beef and salt. It's sort of a mind blower how easy it feels.
It is. It's so simple in terms of grocery shopping. Takes 10 minutes now instead of half an hour. Meal planning is super easy. I remember when I was eating standard American diet, I would spend so much time like looking up recipes, making a meal plan, going grocery shopping, having to cook the individual meals. Now it's like I can cook a steak in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing. So share with us some of the benefits that you started to feel right away.
Right away, I personally experienced fat loss. I had a lot of visceral fat around my abdomen, just from years of overeating seed oils and carbohydrates. And then I also experienced just increased energy I hadn't felt in years. It's weird because I'm not old by any means, but I've never felt better than I do now. Like I literally cannot remember a time in my entire life, even in my childhood, when I had more energy and vibrancy just in my daily existence.
That's so great. And to be free of pain.
Absolutely. Chronic joint pain, I just have so much sympathy, and my heart goes out to anyone who's experiencing chronic pain, because personally I experienced a pretty low level of chronic pain, but normal everyday activities were painful to me. Walking was painful to me, and it really narrowed my life experience because I didn't want to do things because I knew it would hurt. And so I can't imagine what people who are going through more severe pain than I had experience on a daily basis just existing. So I was not expecting to have that reduced and eliminated joint pain that I have now. It wasn't something that I had heard carnivore could help me with, but I'm so glad it did. It's such a different lifestyle that I lead now that I'm not like living at a 2 on the pain scale.
Yeah, no, it's huge. That's a huge thing. I mean, it changes people's personality when they're in pain and how they respond to life or anything. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
That's great. So, what are you eating now? What's a typical day for you?
I have the same breakfast every day: 2 eggs, 2 slices of bacon. It's my go-to. And then typically I'll eat one larger meal closer to the afternoon around like 2 or 3 o'clock. And lately that has been New York strip steaks or ground beef. I've found that over time, as I've been carnivore longer, I just gravitate more and more towards ruminant animals, and specifically steak. It's, for me, the most satisfying meal I can have is just a big steak with some butter on it. Oh, there's nothing better.
I know it doesn't get old.
Nope.
Yeah. And so is that 2 meals a day, or do you sometimes have 3, or
Typically, yeah, I do 2 meals a day, typically within 5 hours. I tried to do OMAD, and I know that works really well for a lot of people, but I found it difficult to eat that volume of food in one sitting. And so I'm way more comfortable kind of splitting up my meals into 2.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Right.
Yeah.
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 I think if OMAD works for someone and they're leveraging it for a specific reason, that's awesome. Like personally, I don't like the feeling of digesting all day, every day. So I don't extend my meal times to 12 hours, you know, I just want to kind of get it over and done with. And I feel really great. I work out every morning lifting weights. And so it's like, I think 16 hours fasted by the time I work out. And I feel great every morning. It's incredible.
And you're embarking on a whole fitness program with a goal in mind. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So about 5 years ago, I was in a YouTube black hole and I stumbled upon bikini competitors and I was so fascinated. I was just so like enraptured by their dedication and hard work. Like it's getting up every morning for 6 months to go to the gym for this tiny moment on stage. And I won't lie, I also like the glitz and the glamour, but it was really the hard work and dedication that kept me thinking about bikini competitions for 5 years. And I just never felt like I was able to do them because of my mental illness. It was really difficult for me to leave my home. And then I had some other medical issues related to that. So it just never felt like a possibility for me. So when I started carnivore and my anxiety went away and I had all this newfound energy, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm finally going to pursue this big goal, this dream I've had for 5 years. Why the heck not? And carnivore has been such an amazing diet to see me through this journey. So my bikini competition is at the end of July 2021. It'll be my first ever. I've been training for it since October. It's like coming to the last few weeks now, and I'm so excited.
Why not? Indeed. That's fantastic. Why not put effort and focus on our bodies, which is the vehicle that we inhabit on this plane of Earth. So I think it's fantastic sport to explore and get strong in. So good for you. And it'll be fun to see that outcome. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I'm so excited. I always say, tomorrow's not guaranteed. We only get one life, and so we might as well live it now. And carnivore has really helped me to be able to do that. I no longer feel trapped.
Yeah, now that's such a huge difference from OCD or feeling trapped in your home. So how did that kind of unravel for you? How did that come apart or open up, let's say?
Yeah, so my OCD, one of the symptoms that was the most debilitating for me, it was really difficult for me to leave my home outside of like my normal routine. So if I like suddenly had to leave or it was an event other than like my daily work schedule, it was really difficult for me to leave because I would have to check that the door was locked. I would lock the door, leave, go to my car, and then I would be like, I'm not sure if the door is locked. And then I would go back and check that the door was locked and then walk back to my car and then think to myself, was the door locked? And have to go back. And I would do that 50 plus times. And
50, 50.
yeah. And
I'm
it's so
surprised you ever got in the
frustrating.
car.
Well, very often I wouldn't go places because it would take me an hour and a half just to leave my house. It wasn't worth it. And it's crazy because like even when I was experiencing that in the middle of my OCD, logically I would think to myself, you wouldn't be at your car if your door wasn't locked. You wouldn't have walked away from the door, but I couldn't stop. It was like the most terrible things would happen if I didn't go check that the door was locked. And so I was just a slave to this obsessive compulsive disorder, and it just made my life so difficult unnecessarily. I tried medications, I tried behavioral therapy, and nothing helped in the way that carnivore has just completely eliminated those symptoms for me.
That's a lot of suffering. I empathize with people that are suffering like that. And when you tried the medications, did that go on for a while? Were you using those or trying those, experimenting with those for months or?
Yes. So from the time I was 18 to the time I was 27, I was
Years.
Yes, I was medicated most of the time. There were times I did try to go off my medication with the help of my psychiatrist and attempted behavioral therapy instead. But it never gave me relief in the way that carnivore has. And so it makes me so frustrated that no one ever gave me the option. Like no one ever mentioned anything about nutrition, let alone carnivore, in treating my mental illness.
Yeah, that they wouldn't at least mention some, vitamin supplements or something, that's just crazy that they
It
would.
is. Their
Yeah.
go-to is medication, and then the medications have side effects, so then you have to medicate for those. And it just makes you, I don't know, it made me feel like I was subhuman, like I was a zombie just existing in this world that wasn't really reality. It really messes you up. And I can't believe that we're putting the people on these major medications
Yeah.
and not even offering nutrition as a solution.
And young people, really young people, younger and younger, starting them with
Absolutely.
that. So when you came off the medications, was it on carnivore that you just started to feel that you didn't need as much, or how did that happen for you?
So for me personally, it's kind of hard to describe, but my OCD was so overwhelming for me. It was just so big in my head all of the time. All of these obsessive thought patterns were such a huge presence in my mind all of the time. And so it was a couple weeks into carnivore, and I started noticing that this presence of my OCD in my mind was growing smaller. And it was so fascinating to me because I was still medicated at the time. And I felt better for the first time since I was 15. And before that, I was diagnosed when I was 15, but I was starting to show symptoms ahead of that. And it was incredible. I was like, okay, I'm onto something. I need to keep doing this. And interestingly, I went into my doctor and I had some blood work done, and they told me that my cholesterol, my total cholesterol was high. And she complimented me on my weight loss. She was like, you've lost like 40 pounds and you look really good and all of your numbers are good. Your fasting insulin is really good, but your total cholesterol is high. And she's like, what are you doing? And I told her I was eating carnivore. And she's like, oh my gosh, you need to stop that. You need to eat lean meats. You need to eat vegetables. And I was like, you just said all my numbers are great. So I ended up working with a keto friendly doctor to analyze and just give me insight into my cholesterol numbers, which turns out we're fine. But it just blows my mind that this doctor who's been seeing me for years and had stitched me up multiple times, because one of my symptoms of my OCD was I would have a lot of medical fear around moles on my body. So if I like found a new mole or felt like a mole was changing, I would remove it myself. And I would go to my doctor and she would stitch me up. And it was like, you have been stitching me up for years. I'm telling you I feel better and you're telling me to stop. And so at that point, I was like, I can't work with this doctor anymore. I found myself a keto doctor, and he ended up helping me taper off my meds.
And so you start to feel like you just felt better, and then did you request for him to like help you taper them off, or you knew that it was time to let go of some of them or all of them, or?
Yeah, just over time, the anxiety just got smaller and smaller and smaller. It was started as this huge presence in my mind, and it wasn't overnight, and it wasn't a smooth road at all. There were kind of jumps and starts, and sometimes my anxiety would kind of blindside me in those first couple months. But I just knew it was getting smaller. And that's the feeling that I had about it. It was just this presence in my mind was getting smaller and smaller. And so I asked that keto doctor if he would help me taper off my meds. I wanted to see what would happen if it was the medication I was on that was helping me, or if it was the diet. And I weirdly, intuitively just knew it was the carnivore way of eating that was helping me. So he ended up helping me taper off the meds. And with that, it eliminated all of the symptoms that the medication was giving me. And so I ended up ending the medication. I haven't been medicated for over a year now, which is awesome. I feel so alive and vibrant and like a human. I always describe it like I feel like a cat just laying in a sunbeam all of the time. It's incredible.
That's awesome. And so he was helpful and into helping you taper it off, because he could see when you explained that you didn't think you really needed as much. So did you do like how does that work? Do you do like half and then quarter, and how does that really work when you taper off psych meds?
So the meds I was on, he just reduced my dosage over time. So initially it was just a smaller dosage than what I was initially taking. And then eventually I was taking the smaller dosage every other day. And then I think he tapered me to like every 3 days and then eventually down to a week. And I don't know that all doctors do it this way, but I had the initial consultation with him. It was pre-pandemic. And then after that, it was pandemic time. So I just did a call with him every month. And he would be like, where are you at with your meds? How are you doing with your anxiety? Do you need more meds? Do you want to try different meds, or do you want to keep tapering off? And I just kept telling him I want to keep tapering off. And I'm glad I didn't just quit them cold turkey. I think after being on medication for a decade, I can't imagine what that would have done to me. So I'm really glad I worked with that provider and tapered off the meds in a safe way.
Yeah, that seems like a smart move. Good for you.
Yeah.
So your meds were going down, and at the same time you were getting stronger. You were already starting maybe into training or more physical activity, and so it just sounds like a really great progression that you were getting stronger as you knew that you could come off the meds. And even you said that there were maybe fits and starts, or because I'm sure there must be, because life is like that anyway. So you would just sort of be able to sense or see or witness these things that maybe would have triggered you in the past, and they weren't triggering you in the same way. That's great.
Exactly. And it's a little disappointing that I did this during the pandemic because I had less reason to leave my home, where I could test it out more often. But at the same time, like all of my other symptoms, the mole removal, which like was probably the most horrifying part of my OCD, if I'm honest. And I had some other symptoms, like I would constantly ask people questions over and over and over, which is really annoying and takes a toll on your relationships. So all of that started going away as well.
That's great. So actually, well, during the pandemic was a good time for you to kind of emerge as like kind of like a whole different part of your personality, being able to get stronger.
Absolutely. I feel like an entirely different person since starting Carnivore.
Wow, it's fantastic. Tell us about your training. What do you do? What do you do? Do you go and you work out like every other day or every day? You go to the gym and you're working out specific parts of the body for form, and so do you work with a coach?
I do. So I have a coach. He's a carnivore too. So he reviews all of my training. The way he does the training blocks is we'll do 4 weeks of building. And so what that looks like is weightlifting in the gym every day. So it's typically a leg day, and then the next day will be an upper day. And then I'll have like a yoga day, but it's like power yoga. It's not like flow yoga. So it's like challenging, but really works on mobility and flexibility. And then I'll have another leg day, and then typically a shoulder day, an arm day, and then one more yoga day at the end of the week.
So did I miss? Did you say 6 days a week or 5? What was it? Each day?
Well, yeah, I work out 7 days a week, but 2 of the days are yoga. So I don't go to the gym necessarily. I'll just work out at home. And then after we're done with the building block, so we'll do that for 4 weeks. And then we do what's called Metcon, or metabolic conditioning. I think a lot of people are familiar with CrossFit. It's a way of combining cardio and weightlifting. So you get all of the fat loss benefits and muscle gain benefits in one workout. So we do 1 week of that, and then we'll move back into the building phase.
Okay, so he separates that out instead of like combining everything at once.
Right. So I don't do cardio during the building phases. We're just focused on building muscle at that time. And then the Metcon weeks are my cardio. But in addition to that, like I just like to be an active person, and I like to be outside. So I go for a lot of walks.
Yeah, nice. And so, share with me, like when you separate out leg day and upper body day, because I personally have a tendency to just do everything each day, which I know isn't probably the most efficient way. And maybe you can share with me a little bit about why that's distinctively different.
It increases your capacity to recover. So if I do leg day on day 1 and I'm not training it again until day 4, I can really hit my legs hard on Monday. And then by the time I'm working them again on Friday, they're fully recovered. If you do full body workouts, it takes just as long for your entire body to recover. So you can actually work out less intensely over the week because you're not giving your body as much time to recover. So by separating it out, you're giving that section of your body more time to recover before you work it out again.
And so you can push harder on the days that you work out, and you'll actually find more muscle growth then by pushing harder and then waiting and then pushing harder instead of like pushing as whatever you can each day. Okay.
Yes, I think that a lot of people vastly underestimate how much recovery is needed for muscle growth and building. And generally, like, just people need recovery time. I see a lot of people doing like the 75 hard challenge, and I am so impressed by anyone who tries to do that. But it's like an hour and a half of working out every day. And I know that your body needs time to recover so it can build. What you're doing when you're working out is tearing down muscle. And so your muscle needs time to repair itself before you need to tear it down again.
Well, it sounds logical.
It doesn't it?
Yeah, it does sound logical. And so did you say your competition is in June or July?
End of July.
The end of July. So it's coming down to, well, you have 2 months.
Yep.
And then when you start cutting, will that be the month of July?
I'm actually in a cut now. So we haven't really changed anything food-wise for me. I'm still eating the meat that I crave. I'm still, I don't track necessarily, but I do have a good idea of what I eat day to day because people ask me all the time. So we haven't changed calories or anything. We're just extending fasting periods for the time being and changing up my training a little bit to include more cardio during those Metcon weeks.
Nice. It's great that he's also a carnivore and really familiar with your diet. You don't have to do any education explaining to him about the effects of it. That's really helpful.
Yes, when I first started, I had a keto coach because the intersection of people who are willing to work with a carnivore and have experience as a bikini competition coach is very, very small.
Tiny. Yeah.
So I ended up finding my new coach, who is a much better fit for me, through Instagram, and he's just been wonderful to work with.
And he was in your locale, or is this? Yeah.
No, he's actually in Canada. I met him
Okay, so
through.
this is a remote coaching.
Yes. So I send him pictures of my physique weekly, and then he gets recordings of all my workouts. I record the 3rd set of any exercise that I do, and I send it to him so he can review form and just check in on me and make sure that I'm performing well.
Oh, that's great. That makes it really doable that someone doesn't have to be actually with you. It could be remote coaching.
Yes, and that's something I find amazing about the carnivore community, whether it be on MeatRx or Instagram or any of the online forums, is like you get to connect with people from all over the world and make these relationships and connections. And even though, like, as a subset of the population, there are not a ton of carnivores in the world, but we can all kind of connect and get to know each other and help each other out.
It's a fantastic community. Absolutely.
It really is.
I have to ask this, were there any considerations, or are there thoughts about during this kind of, there's a certain amount of pressure there's a lot of pressure to competing. And right now you're on this process of training and stuff, which is fantastic and getting stronger. Is there pressure about the competing for you with especially since past psychological pressures? What's that like for you, or what do you consider? How are you thinking about that?
It's interesting because pre-carnivore, I just knew I wouldn't be able to take the pressure of competing, even though I didn't have any experience in it. I didn't know what it would be like, but I just knew, like, mentally I wouldn't be able to take it. But now with carnivore, it's like before I would have been concerned that I'd be really focused on my body image and really just beating myself up about how I looked in comparison to other competitors. I just know that's how I would have taken it. But now it's like, I'm completely confident in my body. My body is strong. I have worked really hard to build muscle and I can lift weights. Like I just feel strong and empowered every day by that. And so it's not about my body in the sense of like body image. It is a physique oriented competition, but it's me versus me. It's like, how hard can I push myself? How much muscle can I build? How well can I condition for this cut? How much time can I spend practicing my posing? How can I be the best version of myself rather than comparing myself to other competitors, which is totally the mindset I probably would have had before carnivore. So it's really interesting. I think that carnivore gave me the confidence to do this bikini competition, whereas before I would have been like, I'm doing this bikini competition to gain confidence, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, you already had the discernment and the focus. You already had that. So the carnivore gives you the confidence to do what you already know you can do, because what someone else might have called obsession, once you sort of let go of those kinds of shackles, then it's really discernment and focus. And then you're just putting it into practice and moving forward with building the physique that you need to compete. It sounds like a great kind of like karma yoga or something, a great kind of step, actually.
Yeah.
So
for me, it is like a lot of meditative pushing. Like it is hard, it is difficult, but at the same time, it's like, it's my dream and I get to live it. And that's incredible to me.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's fantastic. Well, what's your piece of advice that you could, in a nutshell, that you could give someone who is like questioning about embarking on this change of diet?
I would say, why not? I started for 30 days. I was only going to do it for 30 days. And all I wanted from it was to restart my keto diet. And instead, I've been doing it for like 450 days now, and it has completely changed my life. I am happier. I'm more confident. I am healed of so many different issues that I didn't even realize carnivore could fix. I am vibrant, I have so much energy, and I get to live my dream every day. And so why not?
Absolutely. That's perfect. That sounds great. Your family and friends must be really happy for you. They've seen the changes. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, my mom is now a carnivore too. And my younger sister, she was a vegan. She's now vegetarian, and I'm working to get more animal. Yep, I'm working to get more animal foods in her diet as well.
It's great. Meat heals. It definitely heals.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, congratulations and carry on. And it sounds great. And I'm looking forward to how your competition does. And I'm really glad that you came on to share with us about that.
Oh, thank you, Brooke. I'm always happy to share my story and talk to other carnivores.
Yeah, it's good that you're in the community with us. So thank you, Jacie.
I'm so excited to be a part of the MeterX community. I think there's so many like resources and meetings and opportunities for people to really plug in and connect and get the information they need to do this diet successfully.
Yeah, maybe you should do a meeting on competition, on body competition, on strength training competition. I mean, we have one, but it's run by a male. It would be nice to have one run by a female too.
Yeah, it's so important for women to lift weights. I'm very passionate about this too, because women more than men lose muscle and bone density as they age. The best way to protect against that is to build muscle.
It's true. It's really true.
Yeah.
And it protects against that learned helplessness that sometimes we can fall prey to.
Absolutely. It's so empowering. I'm so glad I found weightlifting. I love it so much.
Very good. Very cool. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you around.